I have a younger female paternal cousin who's obsessed with conspiracy theories. My older female paternal cousin's boyfriend loves to cook for her, but my younger cousin scoffs, LOL. Do you really think he loves you? He's just fattening you up so nobody else will want you, and then you'll be stuck with him. When my dad was short on cash because of an unfinished construction project, I transferred him some living expenses. She sneered, LOL. Do you actually believe your dad is broke? He's faking poverty on purpose to squeeze money out of you to buy a house for your brother. She turns everyone's life upside down, then plays the victim. I'm only doing this for your own good. Eventually, she ends up penniless and begs me for money on Instagram. I replied with a single word, LOL. My younger female paternal cousin, Crystal, first got a taste of the allure of conspiracy theories back in elementary school. At that time, our teacher was recounting the story of smashing a water jar to save someone, and after class the students were still buzzing about it. Everyone was saying how clever and brave the protagonist was for rescuing the friend who had fallen into the jar. Just then, Crystal strolled over to the cluster of chatting classmates and nonchalantly remarked, "Oh, you really think the truth is that simple?" Her opening line instantly piqued everyone's curiosity. With all eyes now on her, Crystal grew animated. She intoned mysteriously, "No one dares tell you that the person who fell into the jar was actually shoved in by the protagonist himself." The classmates erupted, swarming around her and peppering her with questions. Seriously? But that's not how it's written in the textbook. Why didn't the teacher mention that in class? Crystal gave a knowing smile and said, "The teacher? How could the teacher dare to teach such things? As for the textbook, it only records the truths people want to see: virtue, kindness, beauty. It's nothing like the real world." I stood off to the side and challenged her. The rescued kid just fell into the water. He's not mute. If the protagonist really pushed him, why wouldn't he speak up? Crystal's cheeks flushed briefly, then she curved her lips into a sly smile and replied in a deep, solemn tone, "Because he's in love with the protagonist. Do you see? In this tale, the protagonist gains fame, and the one he rescues gains love." I was frozen in place. However, I didn't believe it, yet so many were willing to. That day after school, a crowd still gathered around Crystal. Compared to the simple textbook story, everyone preferred her bizarre and convoluted version. "Crystal, how do you know so much? Have you read more books than the rest of us?" Crystal replied coolly, "We all read the same books, I just think deeper, more thoroughly." The classmates all looked at her with admiration. Crystal was delighted. Before this, she was invisible in class, average looks, average grades, average popularity. This was her first taste of being the center of attention. From then on, there was no stopping her. She embellished and wildly spread every bit of internet gossip she found, telling it in a mysterious tone. When the teacher later found out, she came to me, "Helena, your Crystal's Iris, go home and talk to her parents about this." I told my grandmother, but she didn't take it seriously. It's just kids talking nonsense. She believed that once Crystal grew up and understood more, it would naturally pass. But that wasn't the case. As she got older, Crystal only grew more extreme. At New Year's, everyone gathered for dinner. My older female paternal cousin, Iris, who works out of town, had come home too. Iris had always been frail, 5'7.7" and only 90 pounds, often sick, and suffering terrible cramps during her period. But this time home, she looked noticeably fuller and healthier. When relatives asked, she smiled and opened her photo album to show the dishes her boyfriend had cooked. "See? These are braised chicken wings, and here's tomato beef hot pot. He doesn't have many hobbies, he just loves cooking. Whatever I want to eat, he makes it." I've gained 7 or 8 pounds over the past year. As Iris spoke, her face was full of joy. I was genuinely happy for her. Everyone knew Iris's last boyfriend was a jerk, master of silent treatment. Iris suffered through that relationship, losing weight from stress, and was even manipulated into thinking she didn't deserve love. Now she'd finally moved on and found someone who truly cared for her. Yet just as we were all cheerfully saying, "When can we taste brother-in-law's cooking too?" Crystal suddenly put down her chopsticks and blurted out, "LOL, you don't really think Iris's boyfriend loves cooking, do you?" For a moment, the table fell silent and every gaze turned to Crystal. Crystal was pleased. Just now all our conversation had revolved around Iris. Now she had finally stepped into the spotlight. Crystal soaked up the attention and leisurely analyzed, "Iris used to be a supermodel-level beauty. Men feel really insecure about that. So, he's looking for any way to fatten you up. Once you're too fat and no one else wants you, you'll have no choice but to stick with him." Iris's face went pale. She looked at Crystal. "What do you mean by that? He's nothing like that. You've never even met him. On what basis do you draw these conclusions?" Iris trembled with anger, but Crystal didn't care. She shook her head and sighed. Sigh, still defending that guy, huh? Women blinded by love never listen. They're hopeless. Those few words from Crystal completely shut down all of Iris's explanations. The more Iris tried to defend herself, the more she looked like a lovesick fool, and the more right Crystal seemed. That dinner ended on a sour note. Word spread through a dozen channels, and somehow Crystal's remarks even reached Iris's boyfriend and his family. He didn't say much, but from that point on his enthusiasm for cooking waned. Even when he still made meals for Iris, he was no longer his cheerful self. Iris stopped posting food photos on her feed as well. Worse, whenever she came home she was always downcast, and sometimes she'd cry in secret. I blamed Crystal for stirring up conspiracy theories. Things had been fine, and she went and sowed discord. But Crystal felt no guilt. She just didn't think deeply enough. I was only helping her think things through. What's wrong with that? And Helena, stop worrying about Iris. Can't you see you've been duped too? I finally realized the power of Crystal's words. When she looks at you with that solemn, inscrutable tone and asks, you can't help blurting out, "What do you mean?" Crystal smiled. "Grandma said you transferred all your internship wages to Dad last month." It was true. My dad's construction boss had suddenly skipped town, and over the past year he'd been chasing payments across the country. He never recovered the money and still owed the workers, so he was living hand to mouth. Meals were whatever instant food he could grab. Finally, stranded out of town, he messaged me, "Helena, could you send Dad $500? I'll pay you back next month." My throat tightened. I know my dad's pride. He raised me and my brother alone and always played the hero in front of us. He wouldn't ask unless absolutely necessary. I set aside some living expenses, then sent him every cent of my saved internship pay. He tried to return it, but I said, "It's okay, I've got money." On the phone, for the first time, Dad's voice wavered. "Helena's all grown up." I felt so proud. I'd always been Daddy's little girl under his protection. Now I'd grown up enough to protect him when he was in trouble. But at that moment, Crystal crossed her arms and said coldly, "You really think your dad is out of money? Helena, your biggest flaw is seeing people and situations too simply. He couldn't possibly be broke. He's pretending to eat plain buns and pickles in front of you to make you pity him. In reality, he wants to squeeze all your money to buy your brother a house." I was furious. Though she's my cousin, I barely associate with Crystal because I dislike her personality. She knew so little about my family, yet she spoke that twisted moral drama as if it were fact. Crystal watched my face flush and sneered, "Don't deny it, your dad favors sons over daughters. Otherwise, why would he ask you instead of your brother? At the end of the day, fathers always love their sons more. Daughters have always been just tools. Consider this my kindness. Don't let someone sell you out and then count your money for them." I felt like I was about to explode. Just as I opened my mouth to curse her, I heard the door slam behind us. I spun around and saw Dad standing there. After a year away, his hair was grayer, he wore a slightly dirty jacket, dragging a suitcase in one hand and a bag of fresh strawberries in the other. Strawberries are my favorite fruit. He always said they were too expensive for himself, but he'd splurge on me. Dad looked awful. He'd heard every word Crystal said. He slowly set down the strawberries and turned to leave. His shoulders seemed even more stooped. "Dad!" I rushed after him, forgetting Crystal. At the building's exit, I finally caught up. He stood hunched, guilt written on his face. "It's my fault for being useless," he whispered. He didn't blame Crystal. He blamed himself for asking his daughter for money. Tears streamed down my face. "Dad, don't say that. I'm about to start working, and my brother will be in college next year. Our family will get better and better. I never thought you were unfair. Please don't worry." What I didn't know was that Crystal was watching from upstairs, casually gossiping on the phone with her friend. "Oh my god, my cousin Helena, you know her. She's so stubborn. She graduated from a top university, wasted all her savings, and is busy comforting her dad. She's just going to be her brother's ATM from now on." Her friend admired, "As expected of you, so clear-eyed." Crystal grinned with satisfaction.